Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to Where the Lord Meets Life. I'm Leanna, and this is season 3, episode 2, and today we're going to be studying 1 Samuel 17, aka David and Goliath. So basically, it's been a couple weeks because I filmed this a while ago, but I filmed the whole thing, like almost an hour, and then the lighting just looks so horrendous. And something else is I put on like very light makeup for it, but I'm not doing that ever again because I'm not a makeup person. I used to be um a lot honestly, but I just like it just isn't it just isn't for me anymore. So I was like I thought it would make me appear I guess like I didn't want to be washed out at all, but like it genuinely is fine. So I think I'm going to title this episode like what is your Goliath or something along those lines because um that's kind of the message today. Like it's not just like a random Bible study. It's kind of like looking how we can apply this looking at how we can apply this to our own lives. And to prepare for this episode, I have this from my childhood. This is like a storybook Bible where it basically takes the most, I guess, popular slash crucial Bible stories, and not that they're not all important. Like, okay, like the ones that like teach a message that will be good for children. And David and Goliath is one of them. And I always imagine when I'm reading it in my actual Bible, I imagine the pictures in this. So like it's just like really special. But anyway, I reread that chapter in there to oh my gosh, to prepare for this because I think sometimes I just wanted to make sure I want to get the main messages first. I don't want to overthink this whole thing. I also have this is from summer of 24, and this was like I was just so new into knowing Jesus at this point that it's just like so sweet to look back on. But I read the chapter then, and I also reread it like a couple weeks ago. So yeah, looking at just different like seasons of my life, I just think has really like helped me to prepare. And also, I'm going to be reading from the ESV translation. And let me just say, I the thing about like applying this to our own life, I think like I don't know how to explain this, but like I've always read this story from a lens of like it was like a little group of people against another little group of people and kind of just like a little like land. But I had the realization the other day that like this is a like an entire nation that we're talking about. Like this is like it's like oh the Israelites they were some of like no. Like this is like taking a whole country. And that like overwhelmed me in a good way though cuz I'm like wow that shows the power of God so much. Why can't I'm just aimlessly flipping through these pages? Okay, so yeah, anyway, applying it to our own lives because when like we are not going to be in a situation like this, or at least most of us. Um it's like so noticing it from that big of it, like looking at it from that big of a scale, we can look at it and then like look at our own. I guess it's like if God did that, what makes us think that he can't come through for us? But I'll get into that a lot more later. Chapter David and Goliath. Now, by the way, a few of these words in like the first few paragraphs, I guess, I'm not going to be able to pronounce perfectly, and that is okay. Now, the Philistines gathered their armies for battle, and they were gathered at Soko, which belongs to Judah, and encamped between Soko and Azekah in Aphes Damim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered, and encamped in the valley of Elah, and drew up in line of battle against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on the mountain on the one side, and Israel stood on the mountain on the other side, with a valley between them. And there came out from the camp of the Philistines a champion named Goliath of Goth, whose height was 6 cubits and a span. Just a little bit of context for the beginning of this, because I just read it. 6 cubits is equal to 9 feet. 9 feet tall. 6 cubits is equal to 9 feet tall. I think I saw somewhere when I was like younger, I saw this video that was like, it was like a world record, like YouTube channel, and it was like somebody who was 7 feet something inches tall. And he was like really tall. And I'm like, Oh my gosh. Like when I looked that up, I was like very surprised. But also at this point, Saul is the king of Israel. And Saul is, oh my gosh. In my notes, I have written as just an abbreviation, Saul is not a Mog, meaning MOG, meaning man of God. Because Mog to me has always meant man of God, but recently, Gen Alpha has decided to change the meaning. Not just Gen Alpha, I'm just kidding. But it's just funny because now I'm like, I can't say that word, but like that's I've said it, I've literally said it. I literally have a bracelet that says WOG for woman of God. Anyway, just a side thing. But Saul is not um really at this point he's really turned he's just he's just had a lot of he has a lot of pride at this point and he's not really following the Lord. Um and that means the current like leader of the group, I guess, but not just like that sounds so like belittling though. It's like it's not just a leader of a group, it's like this is a whole nation. He's not accepting God's guidance. He's not fully surrendered to him, which obviously not a good thing. Okay, continuing in verse 5. He had a helmet of bronze on his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of bronze. And he had bronze armor on his legs, and a javelin of bronze slung between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron. And his shield bearer went before him. He stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, "Why have you come out to draw up for battle? Am I not a Philistine? And are you not servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants." So obviously that's a very big um would this be an ultimatum? I don't think this would be would that be considered an ultimatum? Presenting a deal, I guess. And obviously because they have Goliath, they are very confident that they're not gonna have to be servants. Because they are confident in themselves. Let's keep going. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. And I actually have written in my Bible Deuteronomy 31:8. So I'll put this on the screen, but Deuteronomy 31:8. It is the Lord who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. So because of the word dismayed in this ESV version, I'm like, that just reminded me of that. And the Israelites are God's people, and they are the ones who are dismayed. Verse 12. Now David was the son of an Ephrathite of Bethlehem in Judah, named Jesse, who had 8 sons. In the days of Saul, the man was already old and advanced in years. The 3 oldest sons of Jesse had followed Saul to the battle. And the names of his 3 sons who went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and next to him Abinadab, and the third Shammah. And David was the youngest. The 3 eldest followed Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. For 40 days the Philistine came forward and took his stand morning and evening. 40 days is a very important number in the Bible. There was obviously the 40 days with the flood. This is 40 days. There was Jesus fasting in the wilderness for 40 days. There was like Moses on the mountain. Oh my gosh, I saw this video somewhere. I think it's TikTok, and it was like talking about how it's not a coincidence that we as women are pregnant for 40 weeks. That's just really cool. That's really cool. That's so intentional. But I just love how David is over here. Obviously, most of us probably know what ends up happening, but he's literally doing something so humble and meek. Like, he's feeding sheep. Like, it's just so, like, it just shows, it's going to show, especially like later, how his confidence isn't in himself. And it's just so beautiful. And Jesse said to David his son, take for your brothers an ephah, ephah, ephah. What? There's not even an F. Take for your brothers an ephah of this parched grain and these 10 loaves, and carry them quickly to the camp to your brothers. Also take these 10 cheeses to the commander of their 1,000. See if your brothers are well, and bring some token from them. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with the keeper, and took the provisions and went, as Jesse had commanded him. Commandment 5, honoring his father. And he came to the encampment as the host was going out to the battle line, shouting the war cry. And Israel and the Philistines drew up for battle, army against army. And David left the things in charge of the keeper of the baggage and ran to the ranks and went and greeted his brothers. As he talked with them, behold, the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, came up out of the ranks of the Philistines and spoke the same words as before, and David heard him. That's going to be important for after. All the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were much afraid. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man who has come up? Surely he has come up to defy Israel. And the king will enrich the man who kills him with great riches and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. And David said to the men who stood by him, who just encountered him for the first time, by the way, David said, what shall be done for the man who kills the Philistine and takes away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And the people answered him in the same way, so shall it be done to the man who kills him. The Israelites at this point are struggling with putting their confidence in themselves, which obviously as Christians, it's very, 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 very easy to do that. Like a lot. Like it's definitely something I struggle with. But David over here is like casually, he's been feeding sheep and he sees after 40 days, he sees Goliath for the first time and already basically speaks down on him and saying who is he against God's army? Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, why have you come down? And with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle. And David said, what have I done now? Was it not but a word? And he turned away from him toward another, and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before. When the words that David spoke were heard, they repeated them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Your servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, you are not able to go against this Philistine to fight him, for you are but a youth, and he has been a man of war from his youth. But David said to Saul, your servant used to keep sheep for his father, and when there came a lion or a bear, and took a lamb from the flock, I went after him and struck him and delivered it out of his mouth. And if he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and struck him and killed him. Your servant has struck down both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, for he has defied the armies of the living God. Like he said before, he's not wavering in his belief at all. And what's interesting too is like we don't know. Obviously, he's appearing very confident, but we're never going to know for sure if he had any doubt in his mind. Because sometimes for us, like, I don't know, like, we shouldn't look at this and be like, if we ever have any doubt at all, we're like failing as a Christian. Like, I think the more that we spend time with God, the more we get to know his heart. The more that you read his word and just talk to him, like, you're going to get to know him deeper and deeper, and it's going to help you to trust him more. But we're not going to be perfect at that because, like, we struggle with looking like Peter. We look at the storm too much. It's a very easy thing to fall into. And if you struggle with doubt sometimes, like, be honest with the Lord about that. Like, that is okay. Because you can't help how you feel and you can pray about those feelings, but you can always choose how you respond. So you can respond in the same confidence that David has. So yeah, you can like respond in confidence and be like, no, I trust my father. Like I know the truth and I will walk in that knowledge and not my feeling. I would say that has been the like top 3 biggest struggles in my walk with the Lord is struggling with letting feelings get to me. Which when around the new year, I made an episode talking about the 5 things the Lord really taught me in 2025, and that was definitely one of them. It's just like feelings. We have to like go jump over. Like I don't know what I'm even trying to say. Like jump. Like whenever we're like feeling something, we have to like just like make the decision. What am I talking about? Like like this is your feeling. Remember that trend that was like you have to like like jumping like you're like stepping on a box, but it's just air, and you have to like lift one foot up and like jump over with one foot. It's like this is the feeling, and you have to like the knowledge is on the knowledge and action of what the truth is on the other side. So you just have to go. Whoop. If you're not watching physically and you're listening to this, you're probably like, what's happening? So I don't know if I read verse 37, but it says, and David said, the Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with you. I'm really happy that Saul is like letting him go. Random side note. Random side note. Then Saul clothed David with his armor. He put a helmet of bronze on his head and clothed him with a coat of mail. And that is pretty much like, what does it say? Bronze on his head, clothing him with a coat of mail. That's like similar to Goliath and what he has on right now. And David strapped his sword over his armor, and he tried in vain to go, for he had not tested them. Then David said to Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not tested them. So David put them off. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the brook and put them in his separate pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. Think about in a war, like in a situation of a war, like, yes, materialistic things are good in a lot of cases. Like, that will help you, but since they were not tested, it would not. And if your confidence is truly in God, you are dependent on Him first and foremost, above anything materialistic, you know? So even though it seemed very risky, like, this is what he needed to do. And God can work the same with the armor, with the helmet, or without it. And the Philistine moved forward and came near to David, with his shield bearer in front of him. And when the Philistine looked and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, ruddy and handsome in appearance. I can imagine. I wrote, "Should I be offended?" Because I was like barely 13 when I read this, for the first time, and I wrote, "Well, is God in his youth?" And what I meant by that was like, God, if God is the one working through David, then him being in his youth doesn't matter. And we'll get into that a little more later. And the Philistine said to David, Am I a dog that you come to me with sticks? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. The Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then David said to the Philistine, You come to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hand, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. And I will give the dead bodies of the host of the Philistines this day to the birds of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel, and that all this assembly may know that the Lord saves, not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. That is quoted honestly a lot, and I think that Exodus 14:14 actually, yeah. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent in my version, but there are some that talk about him, basically just him fighting for you. And but that's the thing. David knew that he wasn't going up there alone, even though to everyone else it seemed so. When the Philistine arose and came and drew near to meet David, David ran quickly toward the battle line to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took out a stone and slung it and struck the Philistine on his forehead. The stone sank into his forehead and he fell on his face to the ground. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone and struck the Philistine and killed him. There was no sword in the hand of David. Love that part of the verse 50. There was no sword in the hand of David, because that just like emphasizes it so much more. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine and took his sword and drew it out of its sheath and killed him and cut off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and Judah rose with a shout and pursued the Philistines as far as Goth, and the gates of Ekron, so that the wounded Philistines fell on the way from Shaaraim as far as Gath and Ekron. And the people of Israel came back from chasing the Philistines, and they plundered their camp. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. As soon as Saul saw David go out against the Philistine, he said to Abner, the commander of the army, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As your soul lives, O king, I do not know. And the king said, Inquire whose son the boy is. And as soon as David returned from the striking down of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son are you, young man? And David answered, I am the son of your servant Jesse, the Bethlehemite. And that's the end of it. That ending is genuinely beautiful because his boast is in the Lord alone. Like the fact that he just completed this for their whole nation. Like nation. Like this isn't just like I said, this little group. Like this is like a nation. Like imagine I live in the USA. Imagine. Sorry, I just ran out of storage for a minute, but imagine if there is this shepherd boy who literally nobody he's so humble, nobody really knows who he is. And he lives in the USA. And he defeats this whole opposing nation with stones. I feel like obviously this is a big deal when I read it here, but I feel like imagining it with your own country Just imagine it with your own country that you live in. It just feels even crazier. But like the way that like he just did this thing, but like he's so humble that like it was all for the Lord and his boast is in the Lord, and nobody knows his name. Literally, that guy was like, I could not tell you what his name is. And here's where I want to get to basically one of the main points of this. Um, it's that I kind of mentioned it a little earlier. But your age is not going to stop God from using you as long as you are willing. David, I don't know exactly how old David was supposed to be in this, but he was in his youth. Like he wasn't a grown adult like the rest of them. And genuinely the way that like God, everyone else for all the 40 days they saw Goliath were all scared and they hid. But yet the youngest one of the army was willing, willing, willing to be used and willing to do it. And that's why God used him. His age doesn't matter in this really. I mean, it doesn't in the sense that it just like it it emphasizes God's power. But what I mean by that is like if somebody young wasn't willing but somebody older was willing, God would use the one who's older and willing. There have been things like in my life that God has used me in, like it's because I've been willing. Like I got saved when I was 12. That's when I really made the decision to follow Jesus. And like as long as I was willing, he was going to use me. And he still is. Like for you too. I'll give an example. I'm very passionate about Mormons, learning who Jesus really is and what the gospel really is. And I have studied the church for about a year now. I've been studying the church. Um and I just feel really called to like spreading the gospel and like ministering to them specifically. And that's where callings are very important because it's like Mormonism is definitely one of the minorities when it comes to groups of people who don't know Jesus. But it's like God will call certain people to minister to certain people. And I'm 15 and I'm at the moment and I made an Instagram account dedicated to spreading the gospel to them when I was 14 because I'm like I feel this calling from the Lord and I'm passionate about this and I'm willing. We have to be willing because it's like God will use you, but you have to like you don't have to make up the path. You don't have to make up the path yourself. He will lead you, but you have to be willing to accept and say yes and, follow after him and what he's calling you to. So if you are younger, even if you are younger, like I'm pretty young, but if you are younger than me listening to this or watching this, don't be discouraged by that. There are also certain things that God will use you for according to your age and your willingness. Like obviously God can use you to like raise a family, but like not when you're a certain age because you just haven't entered that season of life yet. God can like just like God will use specifically younger kids, teenagers to minister to people at schools, which won't happen when you're older. Nearing the end of this episode, the main thing that I want the really main question here is like obviously all the things we've talked about and how you can apply this and how like the message like the biblical messages that come from this. But also the question really is like what is your Goliath in your life? Because again, like I said, most likely nobody who's watching this will ever be in a situation like this. But that does not mean by any means that we won't go through any serious issues in life. And some of these things like I guess like the question is what is your Goliath in your life at the moment? Um it could be small, it could be really big. But no matter how big it is, it's the same God who is looking at that issue. And look at Jesus, honestly, because he is the one looking at the whole issue and taking care of it. You have to look at him. Like going back to the example in not Mark 4. In Mark 4, there was the disciples on the boat and they were looking at the storm and they were like, "Jesus, why aren't you waking up?" Like they were doubting him being in control. But there was also Matthew 14, I think, where Peter was walking on the water, but as soon as he took his eyes off of Jesus, he fell. Jesus had him. We just have to trust that he has us. Whenever you are in a really tough situation where you're doubting, like God, are you gonna like come through for me? Like how are you gonna solve this? read 1 Samuel 17 and just think about all these things. And it's not even always about, like, it's not gonna like magically make the fear go away. It might make some of it go away, but sometimes it literally might be about, like I said earlier, reminding yourself of the truth. Maybe your feelings won't change, because I've definitely been in situations like that where like my feeling about it didn't really change. I just now know what I have to do. So I hope this encouraged you, and I'm gonna say a prayer over you. Bow your head and close your eyes with me, if you can. Dear Jesus, thank you so much for just every single soul that you have brought to this episode, whether on Spotify or YouTube. Lord, you have specific reasons, and I pray that all of this that we talked about will just truly encourage them. Help them to look to you, not the storm. Help them to focus on your power and ability and put their confidence in you. Put their confidence in you, Lord, not themselves. You want to fight for us too. So help them to just genuinely just meditate on all these truths today and this week. In Jesus' name, amen. Reminder that the podcast is on Instagram and TikTok at Where Blurred Meets Life. I post like episode clips on there, and episodes are on Spotify and YouTube. Hi to all my Spotify people and hi to all my YouTube people. This is my Instagram pro-life account where I advocate for the unborn at Leanna's pro-life. And this is what I was referring to earlier, my account where I spread the true God and gospel to Latter-day Saints at Jesus Loves the LDS. I've genuinely loved talking to y'all. I just feel like the setup was just very like, I don't know. It was just nice. So thanks for being here, and I love you. Jesus loves you so much more, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.